Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dyschronia for what is probably the final time. And welcome back to Mom, waiting for us in the memory room. Last time, I was wondering, if I filled everything out here, then what is it that I still have to do? Well, I realized what I was missing. It turns out that this is not the only memory room, that each episode has its own memory room, and the items that you get from each episode go there. Now, I've never really interacted with this room or the pocket watch. I could have done that as I was playing the game if I wanted to go back and revisit certain scenes or try a different timeline, but it's not something that really came up much. So, didn't really get into it. I saw the room, of course. You see it on the title screen, but not something we really ever had to do. What we should do... Let's see, what can we do? What we need to do is go back to episode 1, and then use the pocket watch to come to the memory room, and we will see that version of the memory room. The only question is, which chapter should I... Well, which section of the episode should I go to that will let me quickly do that? This might be good. You see, I still do have to go through the cutscenes and dialogue on the section that I choose. I don't think there is a free roaming mode where you can just explore and no story happens. I don't think it has that. I haven't noticed that.
Did you sleep well?
It would make it a lot easier if you were able to just do that.
Hey,
But
the secret lab is...
What?
as you can see, I can't actually skip the scene here.
By the way. Anyway,
And I keep calling them chapters. I don't know what you call it. Let's say chapters. Some chapters in the episode don't let you go everywhere. It very much directs you to where you need to go. And I need... Well, first of all, okay, I have control over myself. So I think this chapter I'm in is a good one to go to where I need to go. But at the same time, I also first want to go back to the memory room for episode 1 using our pocket watch. Right, so we're back here. Mom is still here since we've beaten the game. But there are more pillars here now, and they have different items. These are the memory items that I got in episode 1. So, let's see how many we've gotten and what we have yet to get. There's the camera. That belonged to the professor. This bow, which I believe is in Maya's room. Crystal in the professor's place. This plush belongs to Noel. Gloves, which might belong to Keith, I think. A bullet, which is Ash's. This drawing, which is in our apartment. Don't know which of the three drew it. This box, which I think is from the professor's place. Supervisor badge. It's either Hal's or Ash's, I think. I don't know what this box is. Not sure what that is. Oh, those are all the blue pillars. So we've gotten all of the blue items. What about the red ones? There's this thing from the professor's place. Now, this one we don't have. This pillar is gray. It looks like a floppy disk. Don't have that one. Need to get it. The knife sheath. Last time I did pick up the knife sheath in the secret lab, and I wondered, why didn't the knife sheath appear in the memory room? It's because it appeared in the episode 1 memory room. The professor's cane. More gloves. This white crystal. That's part of the professor's puzzle to get to his secret lab. Another supervisor badge. This wall ornament from the professor's bedroom puzzle. This bag, which I think was Keith's. I think he brought the professor some tea, maybe? This pen, and that's it. Alright, so even though I had not been keeping track of the episode 1 memory room, it turns out that I'm only missing one item, so that's not bad. It's a floppy disk. We need to find that floppy disk. Alright, how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go back to that chapter we were just in. So I figure episode 1 is mostly about investigating the professor's place, and most of these items we found were from the professor's place. So if I'm missing an item, it probably is not from the professor's place since I searched it so thoroughly.
Sleep well?
It would make more sense that it comes from somewhere that I had not searched all that well. So where could that be? Where would it make sense for a floppy disk to appear?
What?
And like I said, some chapters don't let you just walk everywhere, so if you're going to be searching for these memory items, you need to be able to find a chapter that's going to let you start walking around wherever you need to go with a minimum of cutscenery. I just wish there was a free roaming mode where you could just ignore that, but again, I don't see the option for it. Alright, we're going to go out, but before we do, just wanted to mention that there is actually a room that I've never gone into, and that's Noel's room.
How? I'm busy right now. Save it for later. Leave me alone.
Alright, his door's locked. His door's always locked. If Noel's in there, the door's locked. If he's gone, the door's locked. So is there a way, Lily? Is there a way to get inside that room and plumb his secrets? Yes, there is. But later. That's not for right now. For right now, I need to find a floppy disk. So, location that a floppy disk would be in that I hadn't searched all that much. It ends up, we are going to the bureau. To Elaine's office. Some memory items, of course, were necessary to make progress in the game, and others were not. Some were completely optional, but now we find out after beating the game that if we want that last little bit on that timeline, we are going to have to get all those items. You know, while we're here, Lily, something I wanted to mention, kind of a frustrating thing about the game. I like the music. I think the music's pretty good. But the audio mixing in the game... Thank you for talking, because that's an example of it. The music is so low, but the voices, Lily, the voices are so high. They're so high, Lily. Why are the voices so loud? And the music is so low. You know, there is an options menu. Hold on, where is it? Okay, there it is. There's the options. There's movement options. There's subtitle options. Subtitles and subtitle position. General, which is just, do you want to reset the options? You notice something missing, Lily? Do you notice something missing? There's no options to turn down the voices and turn up the music. It's not there. Because the problem, I think, is exacerbated when I watch the recordings. Like, actually, when I'm playing the game in the headset, the voices aren't quite as loud. They sound considerably louder in the recording, and I don't know why. To the point that I have to turn down the game audio in the video to make the voices, like, actually bearable to listen to. And that turns the music way down, which I think is a shame, because I do think this game has some good music. I also like how there's like a smooth transition in the music. I'm not sure if you've noticed that. But there's like a nice little smooth transition when you go between areas. Alright, we're in the...
Yo.
Yep. Well, we're in the office, but I can't actually search Elaine's desk yet because I have to watch a cutscene.
Yesterday was this... How about...
Well, Elaine's not here, but you know what is here? That disc! There it is. Lily, we found it. The last item from episode 1.
What's this?
Backup disk. Disk used for research data backups. Estimated memory usage 0%. There's nothing on it. Well, are there memories attached to it? That's what we're going to find out. Time powers go!
This was found in the professor's house.
I said time power...
Sure it's empty, but we're gonna have it analyzed just in case.
Time powers go!
Abnormality detected. Entering automatic backup mode.
It's almost imperceptible, but there's a slight anomaly in its personality substrate.
Data disk not found. Insert the disk correctly within the allotted time frame.
All right. There that is. Grab that. Put it in. Put it in.
Data disk not found. Suspending automatic backup mode.
Not putting it in. All right. Was that one of the professor's memories from before the incident? Huh. He had the missing log data from the marionette. If I can change the professor's actions, we might be able to get a hold of that data. Oh, this is not only like a flashback item, but this is like I can change the past. I guess it wasn't necessary to change the past, because we didn't. Maybe doing this gives us some more evidence during the trial. Because my percentage in the trial was a little low. It could have been higher. I assume you can get a 100% accuracy in the trial. And to do that, you probably have to uncover all the evidence. So I guess that's what this is. But interesting that you don't actually have to do this to progress in the game. I guess as long as you just find enough of the evidence, you can complete the trial. You don't have to find all of it.
It's almost imperceptible.
I don't know, maybe there's probably like an achievement.
Insert the disk correctly within the allotted time frame.
Probably an achievement for getting 100% in the trial. All right. Am I holding the disc? No, it's over there. Okay. The disc. In there. Put it in. No, yeah, there we go.
Backup complete.
All right. Everything looks good to me.
Hal playing Time God. The events of the timeline is just a plaything to him. All right, what happened?
Did something happen to the disc?
Did something
Let's take
happen?
another look at it back at my desk.
All right, let's take a look.
Hal, this is incredible! The data was completely erased. How did you recover it?
So you remember that it was erased. It didn't like affect your memories. I'm a little bit unclear about that. Do people remember the old timeline, or is it just completely replaced with the new one?
Use this to prove the marionette was there in the underground lab.
So it looks like Lily does remember that there used to not be anything on this. All right, so this is an item, an object, an evidence item that you can use during the trial. All right, I wish I had found that while I was playing. I did not. But we found it now, Lily. We found it now. And because of that, I think that we're done with episode 1. Also, one thing I wanted to mention over here, this, like, box.
What's the deal with all that stuff?
What's the deal with this box?
Before you joined the Bureau, There was this new recruit called Ghoulis. One day he reported seeing a girl with white hair in AD. He was never the same after that. He's been unconscious ever since.
A white-haired girl.
I'm guessing you'll be dipping in and out of AD. If you see someone who fits the bill, let me know.
I didn't notice this box, and I just wanted to mention that because there's one point in the game where we do like a counseling session with someone named Ghoulis, and Hal is like, "It's Ghoulis! I have to help him. I can't let Ghoulis down." And I'm wondering, am I supposed to know who Ghoulis is? Who is this? Apparently, he was a supervisor. He sat at this desk, and we can get a little bit of backstory on him. But even if we don't, Hal is very concerned about Ghoulis when we find him and do counseling. Anyway, pretty sure we're now done with,
You're the only one capable of memory diving!
Aw, shucks.
I can't see what you see, but I bet it's incredible!
See ya, Lily. Alright, so now... Yeah. That disc is here? Can I get a description of it? I mean, I guess we've already seen the description. I thought I was able to hold it and get a description of the items. There it is. Information was once thought lost. What do you think about that?
You're almost there.
I'm almost there. Episodes 1 and 3 now have all their items. Episode 2, we still have to do. Alright, so now what would be a good place to jump into Episode 2? This is the underground lab. Probably not there. Back at the Bureau, Elaine orders you to search for that key. Assailant is dead. Traces of ash. Revisit the crime scene. I just need to find, like, a location where I can use my inventory quickly. And I'm not sure which one will be that. Just, like, the minimum cutscenes, please, before I can access my inventory.
Hal!
Yeah.
You...
Accept.
Huh?
Call from Elaine. You know, noticing it now, the headband is very conspicuous.
I just received a report from...
I just thought that was part of her fashion. It was part of her style.
Take a deep breath and listen, okay?
I mean, does she wear the headband all the time?
The Bureau is currently scanning the entire hotel guest floor.
Does she wear it to bed?
Already found traces of ash in the room you discovered the body in,
Does she wear it in the shower?
alongside some classified data belonging to the Bureau.
How does she style her hair with the headband on?
You're kidding.
Because her hair is extremely styled.
Just so you know, we use that room to keep outsiders under surveillance.
I suppose the intention was when you find the headband in the clock tower and you get the description that it's a memory suppression headband, you're supposed to recognize that that's Elaine's headband, and I just didn't.
That way we can...
It did not even register.
Opposite. Does that make sense? Anyway, I suspect... Do you know what...
Well, we're getting quite a conversation here. I just want to get to my inventory. I'm sorry, Elaine. I'm sorry, Mom.
Understood.
I just really want to get... Yeah.
But without... Where could it...
Where could it gone? Yeah, Lily.
Lily, I'm sure...
Start investigate. Let's do it. Please let me investigate. So yeah, it turns out that the... Can I move around? Can I move around? Lily, do you have something to say? I can't move around. I can't move around.
Hal?
Yep. There's a weird... Keith, do you have something to say? Just, I want to grab my watch. As I was saying, it turns out that the reason for the watch in the memory room is just so if you want to go back and find these items, or if you want to go back to find all of the people in AD who need counseling. Because I missed a bunch of them. Like, if you wanted to, you could go back to the different chapters and find the people who need counseling, counsel them, and as you do that, you gain access to different archive files, which give you, like, more flavor text and background into the story. Like, none of the information... Well, so far from what I've read, none of the information is really groundbreaking or anything, but it's just, bits of lore to fill in some gaps. Alright, this is the Episode 2 memory room. We have a chess piece... This column is gray. We have... I don't remember what this is. It says love on it, I think. Or load? Okay, well, what is it? 0407. A black bracelet. I don't know what that is, but we have it. Then we don't have this. It looks like a plush. Is this a ring gun? Ring-shaped laser weapon. Ash's revolver. A security tag. This is a photo that's on Elaine's desk. Little girl out of focus. I don't know if it's supposed to be Elaine as a child. I don't think they established who that is. A tablet. Smart tablet from outside the city. The professor's coat. Now, I don't have this. It's a briefcase with an indentation of the revolver. Well, I know where this is. This is in Aries' room, because she's killed with the revolver. There's a tablet. No details. It's just shaped like a tablet. There's a key card. The fuel cell for Aries' gun. Aries' gun itself, the thing that killed us more than anything else in this game. Lightweight energy weapon. Alright, and that's it for Episode 2. So, there are 2 blue items, the chess piece and, like, a plush thing, and 2 red items, the gun case and a tablet. So we have to find those. And that... So, okay, how do we get those? Well, I know where to get the blue ones. We're going to go to this one. In the underground lab, at the beginning of Episode 2, after we get past the boss fight, Noel will appear to talk to Maya, who is in Cecilia. Don't say it like that. Why do you say it like that?
No! What were you thinking? You scared the light...
Right, so we were hiding because we heard someone coming. Turned out to be Noel.
No.
Maya, I'm so glad you woke up.
Hugs.
Noel? Did you...
Yeah, you've been...
Alright, so we have to get out of here to do what we need to do. We have to talk to them to get out of here.
This body feels kind of weird. I'm awake. It feels like a vital...
Where's his thing? There's his thing.
How?
Don't say it like that.
It's so hard to tell what time it is.
I hear that.
Hal, you guys have been gone. I was looking for... Hal,
You took care...
she was... I think... But she...
What?
If I took you... But...
So that...
Alright, talk to you.
There's some... What?
Hal, what's...
Oh, the heat and I'm...
If... At least...
Let...
There... Yeah.
What?
It...
Hal?
If I...
Okay, now I think I can leave.
First things first.
Yeah. Now I can leave.
You're leaving already?
I said, now I can leave.
Don't worry, Noel. I'll keep...
Okay, now we can leave. So why are we choosing this chapter to find some items? Because, hey, Noel left his room. And maybe he had his mind on his sister, wanting to see if Cecilia was okay. Maybe he wasn't thinking about locking his door when he left. I don't know if this is the only part in the game where you can get into his room. I don't know if there's any other part where you can, but you can do it here.
It's unlocked.
Eat it, Noel.
That's odd. He must have left in a hurry.
I guess it wouldn't hurt to take a look inside.
It would not. Alright, here's his room. He's got, like, a lot of plushes. Clearly clings on to those happier days when everyone was younger, everyone was having fun, having a good time. Not like now, Lily. Not like now. Noel yearns for the past. He doesn't like the present. But what do we have? Alright, here is the plush. Now, that is a time item, but we already had that. We gave this to him, so we've already seen that one. Noel Gannett, variant, class 4. Alright, here is the chess piece.
What are you doing?
Professor!
Oh, it's you, Noel.
I couldn't recognize you until I walked a few steps forward.
Professor, Maya won't wake up.
This is after the experiment.
Hal says he can't remember me. He's so confused all the time.
Is that so?
Professor, you've got to help them. Put them back to how they used to be. You can do that, can't you? Please?
If Hal has been freed from his past, even for a moment, as far as I'm concerned, it's for his own good. No more chasing the shadows of people he's lost. Besides...
Professor!
Get out, Noel. I don't want to see you here again.
Professor, why? Why did you betray us? You were supposed to be protecting us. Give me back Maya and Hal.
We got the memory chess piece. Alright, so that gives us a little bit of backstory into why Noel's the way he is. The past was happy. Everyone was a happy family. Then the experiment happened. Dear sister is in a coma. Hal doesn't remember anything, and the professor is weirdly cold to him. There's one other thing here. That. Yep, that is the plush we saw in the memory room. Let's see, it looks handmade. Is this Maya's work? Let's find out. What at? Are we not familiar with a penguin, Hal? Well, the apocalypse happened in this world, so maybe penguins don't exist. It's unclear what the state of wildlife in the world is. It might be that most species went extinct.
Hal, I made some tea.
This is good.
Hey, where's this tea from, by the way?
Apparently it's from way down south. Not that I've been. In the middle of this tiny village, at the foot of a mountain, there's a giant tree. When you strip the tree's bark, it gives off a sweet scent, just like the tea. Apparently, the whole village smells like it.
You get tired of the smell after a while. It's good for in a few doses, but if you smell it all the time,
Nobody lives there anymore. But the tree is still there.
Everyone was driven away by the smell.
They say the village is counting down the days until the particle contamination clears up and people can return home. Yeah, that's what I heard anyway.
Hey, do you still want to go outside?
Yeah, of course. But I'm not going to go by myself. Ever since nightfall, the professor's been trying to figure out how we can recover. He's doing all that research for us too, you know? If it works out, people will stop being so harsh to variants. We won't have to live in the shelter anymore. Once it's safe, I'll take you both outside the dome. You hear me? When we leave together.
That would be the promise that gets referenced. Well, he's made two promises, I think. One to Maya and one to Noel.
All right, then. Just don't go running off and breaking your promise, okay?
Yeah, don't make these anime promises so willy-nilly, Hal. You are obligated to keep them even if you are destroyed by time, even if you are disintegrated and your existence is not recognized by the timeline anymore. You are linked by the promise. It's that important, Hal.
Mine is back.
Penguin plushie. All right, so these memory items are actually pretty important, as they do show that Noel used to be a happier person back, before the incident. And he's just someone who longs to be able to return back to there. Well, okay, we got into Noel's room, which is pretty hard to get into. And we got those two items. We have two remaining. There was the gun case, and there is a tablet. Give me a second. Hal said it's hard to keep track of time, and I've lost track of time myself. Let me just make sure I don't run over the file limit. Okay. What do you got to say? Am I still almost there?
You're almost there.
I'm almost there. Right, there's the chess piece. And there is the penguin plush. Now, we want to get the gun case. And I can do that after Irie is murdered and investigating her room. I thought I did do that, though. Now, it might be that I might have gotten the gun case when I played through this the first time, but then in the middle of the game, I had to redo it because of technical problems. So it might possibly be that my second time through... Where am I supposed to be looking? There we go. It might possibly be that on my second time through, I missed the gun case.
Why?
I can only assume that's the case. Yeah, and then we're getting info on Irie and how she died.
She is with the best.
Between?
Which, of course, will never happen, because we will stop it from happening.
Looks like
What do you mean?
that one. Yeah, it's weird.
What?
I'm sure.
Yeah. No time like the...
No time like the present. Let's just get in there. Get in there. Let me in there. Let me just grab an item.
Let's
Check out that body. Well, okay. No, it's over there. It's right over there. But okay, let's check this out first.
This tag outside the... How did she get maybe...
I can't walk away from this. I just have to finish this bit where we're examining the body hologram.
The wound on her head. The likely... We spotted this hat-mate. She died from a projectile.
Okay, that's all of them. What's wrong is that I just want to walk over there. Want to walk over there and grab that gun case. Yeah, it's glowing.
It looks just like the case Ash found in the port area when we were kids. Nothing inside it, though. Where'd the gun go?
Where did it go? Well, not that. This.
A lead bullet. It looks just like the case.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing inside. Where'd the gun...
There we go. A little hard to grab it.
This looks about right. I think.
He's disassembled the gun.
I've got to show Hal one of these days. I'll bet he'll freak out.
Okay, actually, I don't think I saw this vision. Maybe I just didn't go into the past with the gun case. It was a little hard to grab. Maybe that's why. Maybe I tried to grab it and didn't register. Alright, there we go. It's Ash's gun case. He loves the gun. He loves the revolver. He just likes his gun. He wants to show it to Ash. And that's it. That's all we needed to find here. One more thing to go, and that's the tablet. So the tablet was a little difficult to figure out because it's so, undetailed, you know? Yeah, gun case is over here. One item to go. Like, a tablet could be anywhere. Where would you start looking for a tablet? It's somewhere in episode 2, and that's all we know. Is there anything else that we can do? Well, it's gonna have to be someplace... we're gonna have to choose a chapter where we can walk around. Actually, this is probably a good one. I mean, I think that we will have to... Yeah, it's... Okay. It's this scene. We're gonna have to talk to Ash.
Hal!
So we can't go start looking right away.
I spent... Don't go...
Yep, he thought he killed us. We shot at... Well, we made him miss Cecilia. And then we fell off the ledge and had to go through the underground lab.
What the hell?
We all have our secrets.
Ash, stop it! Your face is all scary!
Come here, both of you. Ash was just reporting back to me. First things...
Direct.
Of course.
I saw 3 years and then...
So... You seem pretty...
Sure. One of the control keys to the other...
How do you...
Because... Oh, that's what... Look.
And we get a new mission to find that key.
That's your top...
I think I can move around now.
Hold on, I haven't finished just yet.
Never mind.
What is it, Director General?
You're aware of the challenge. The current is...
Right. Talking about counseling.
There is a men... If...
People are stressed out like never before, and Hal's healing hands has to caress them until they are calm.
Elaine!
Massage their minds, their techno brains, in VR. Alright, now I can walk around. Alright, so this tablet, our final item, where might it be? Well, I had to walk around a little bit to find this, because it's not out in the open. Remember Ghoulis' desk? He has that box. If I walk by it, it opens, and there is a glowing tablet. What's this other one? Do we say anything about it? Doesn't seem so. Oh, hold on. Smart tablet, but used by Ghoulis. But we want to know about this one.
How about going for a little stroll to take your mind off everything?
How about we look at Ghoulis' tablet?
Spot something while you're at it.
Why not we read Ghoulis' tablet, Lily? This is Ghoulis we're talking about here. Alright. What happened to Ghoulis? Our final memory item. It's all about Ghoulis. Okay, so I'm controlling Ghoulis, and we're talking to Ash.
Of course. Flying ghosts, visions of hell at daybreak.
By the way, I just got an achievement for getting all of the memory items.
Oh, and the girl with the white hair. Apparently it's some kind of collective fantasy. I guess even in their dreams, people seek out weird and wonderful things.
I met her. I met the girl with the white hair in AD. She was real.
Ghoulis, man, don't tell me you believe in those ghost stories.
I'm being serious. We need to try to get to the bottom of it. There are plenty of residents who are having nightmares because of her, right? Ash?
Give it a rest, Ghoulis. Don't get yourself caught up with her. You aren't ready.
Wait, do you know something about her? You've got to tell me.
Look, I have no idea what that girl really is. I just don't want you playing with fire. If something bad happens because you went and tracked her down, well, some people might get upset.
I don't understand what you mean. What do you know?
I've got nothing else to say, man. Later.
If he won't tell me, I'll have to find out for myself.
Ash was keeping secrets, and Ghoulis decided he needed to find out the truth himself. But the truth can lead to self-destruction, Ghoulis. As far as what happened to Ghoulis, let's see. I have an archive document that mentions him. Let's see. Where's Ghoulis? I didn't unlock everything. Yeah, a regular case Ghoulis Bell. I have not unlocked it. You have to counsel people to get to meet the release conditions, and I haven't counseled everyone. There's a lot of people I haven't. So I don't have all of the documents. I do have one about Ghoulis, though. Where is he? Well, there's Ghoulis Bell's suspension from office. Maybe I don't have the Ghoulis document. I have two things here about Ghoulis, but I have not unlocked either of them. Oh, no, here it is. Ghoulis Bell's convalescence. This is what I was thinking about. Coma patient Ghoulis Bell was transferred to the general ward after his condition had stabilized. His charts are showing encouraging signs of improvement. He may well be on the verge of waking up. Even after regaining consciousness, he may still experience hallucinations and show signs of delusional behavior. I recommend ongoing medical care in the short term. The patient's perception of reality and dream may still be somewhat blurred. Ghoulis' symptoms will likely improve gradually after resuming day-to-day life. We could even consider his early return to the field, depending on his wishes, of course. Forgive me, this isn't the time or place to be having that discussion. The deep sleep state many Kairos-compatible residences are trapped in show no signs of alleviating. I'll follow up on it with a detailed report. Yeah, so Ghoulis tried to investigate the white-haired girl. Maybe he found her and then, like, went into a coma? And he's, like, doing okay. He's doing better. Again, we met him at some point and you know, used our healing hands on him. And, he's probably doing okay.
Oh, crap.
What do you know about Ghoulis? Well, this guy has not been able to sleep since last night. Alright, so that's all of the memory items. Every single one. Fasow. And that should mean we've done what we need to do. For whatever it is that's gonna happen. Oh, Mom's coming this way. Yes?
It's time to go back. Go on. She's dying to see you.
Well, this has now changed colors. Oh, no, I didn't mean to grab that. Didn't mean to grab that. Oh, I guess you can. I guess you could just grab the pocket watch to go back to the chapter you were in. Okay, let me just... Before anyone starts talking. Alright. I'm not going to grab anything. Not grabbing anything.
It's time
for me to go back. Okay. We got all the memory items from every episode.
She's dying to see you.
What will we get? We walk out into the starry expanse.
I was led down this path into an endless dream. I remember everything I saw. The things that came to pass, and those that didn't. I'll treasure those memories forever. That voice. It'll guide me back safely. Back to where I need to be. Hey, Maya. It's time for the next part of our journey.
guess that's our end of Dyschronia. Hal, his time ghost, was able to still exist in AD, and through there was able to access Cystelia. It was mentioned that anyone in AD does have the potential to do that if you can find the access socket. And so Hal's ghost lives on in the android body. And that should mean... Yep, there we go. The last bit of the timeline is opened up, ending a golden afternoon. The door is open. It's daylight, the sun is shining, and everyone is happy. Alright. The true ending has been found. I mean, true ending. It does take place... Like, there's a good and a bad ending. The true ending is not a third one. It's an epilogue to after the good ending, where we find out that Hal was not disintegrated by time. He still existed somewhere in the time stream, and was able to get into Cystelia, and then they were able to go to where, I guess that was where Hal used to live. That location they were in, that seemed like what we saw earlier in Hal's memories about where he lived with his mom. They've left Astrum Close and are now exploring the world to find their place in it, I guess. What is life going to be like as a ghost living in an android body? I mean, it's probably okay. It's probably alright. But that is our ending. We completed Dyschronia, we got all the memory items, we did the entire timeline. There were a few documents I didn't get, but it's alright. It's fine. I'm okay with that. And what do we think about Dyschronia now that it's all over? Well, I'm going to have to collect my thoughts, I think. Give me a moment. Okay, so Dyschronia is over. Been thinking about the game, been digesting some thoughts. That's what it's called, right? When you're thinking about things, you digest it like food. I don't know why I'm starting off saying that. I don't know. I don't have words at the moment. Words are hard. Sometimes words can be hard, and that's just how this is going to have to be. It's actually been over a week since I recorded the ending of Dyschronia, and I meant to record these thoughts right after that, but for one reason or another, I just wasn't able to get to it. Things were distracting, things were taking away from my time, so haven't gotten to it until over a week later. So I'm saying words, and hopefully those words will form into sentences, and those sentences into paragraphs, and those paragraphs into a complete thought that will be somewhat cohesive, somewhat comprehensive, somewhat cohesive on Dyschronia, this VR game I've been playing for most of the year, because I did start playing it in January. It's not that long of a game, really, but I took my time with it, as I will do. And, the third episode only came out in July, so even if I had hurried up, we still would have finished it at about the same time. So what do we think about Dyschronia? Well, I wanted to play an anime murder mystery game in the VR, because that's a genre that sometimes I enjoy, and it's not something that I've done in VR, so it seemed pretty different. Most of the video game representation I get in VR is of the Western flavor. So having a company saying, hey, look here, we got some anime-ass anime up in here, up in your headset, it's like you're living in the anime. I thought, sure, I'll do it. I'll live in the anime and solve a murder mystery. Let's do this thing. And I don't know. I felt like Dyschronia... I never really got that into it. I felt like Dyschronia kept getting in its own way, really. That there was potential here that it didn't live up to. And I just felt like it never really got going. It could have got going. It just never did. Just didn't have that extra oomph that it really needed. And I'm trying to think about why. Why is that? And I guess one big part of it is the pacing. The slow pace. the molasses-ish pace. Like you might eat a molasses cookie and think, that tastes like Dyschronia. That's how it go. In the perfect city of Astrum Close, everyone is very methodical. Everyone's very deliberate. Everyone's very slow. Man, I can't tell you how many times in Dyschronia I would, like, go through a door into a new room. And when I'm in the new room, I can't move anywhere for a few seconds, and then Lily will slowly fly forward, pause there for a second, slowly turn towards me, pause for a second, and then say, Hal, we should go through that door on the other side of the room! And that's where I was going anyway, but I had to, like, wait just, like a 10 seconds or so to go through that before I could actually continue. And if it's like, once or twice, it's not a big deal. But like the entire game feels like that. The entire game feels like I'm waiting to be able to do something instead of actually doing something. And it's just a weirdly slow pace. I mean, I guess it's VR. They want you to be able to take your time and look around and see things. So let's not go too fast, I suppose. And we don't want the actual detective parts to be too hard, because they weren't. They're surprisingly not hard. Like, that never actually got in the way. I don't know. It's funny because I'm thinking about the intro, like the opening credits. The opening credits scene is very fast and has really sharp, snappy editing. And it's cool, especially when you watch it in VR. You get the full experience. The opening credits scene is pretty cool, and it's funny because the rest of the game never feels anything like that. The rest of the game never feels as fast or as stylish as that opening. And it just needed to be a little faster. Just things needed to be a little faster. It got frustrating, especially during parts like the end where I was going back to previous sections to try to find items that I didn't find, and I was trying to think about what scene can I go to that has the least amount of conversations at the beginning, because I can't skip the conversations. I could be like here for 10 minutes in a conversation if I pick the wrong one. I gotta make sure I pick the right one. And I don't know, just even something like that where the game wants you to go back to the previous chapters and find things that you didn't find. It wants you to do that, and still it is such a slow molasses process in doing that. I wasn't even doing that for most of the game. You could. I think it's pretty clear the game wants you to do that. They give you the pocket watch, and they let you use the pocket watch to go to the room of memories. And you can use the room of memories to go to previous scenes to find items that you didn't find, or to try different timelines, which that barely ever happened, but on occasion there were. Or if you wanted to go back and try to find all of the people who needed counseling, all of the people who were glowing red, you could do that. You'd think that it would feel faster and snappier to do that, but no, it just never got to that point. It just felt like the game wanted to take things extremely slow the whole time, and that was really to its detriment. I mean, it's not the only issue I had with Dyschronia, but I felt like that was just a big part of it. It needed to be a little faster. Just let me do things a little bit faster. Maybe characters don't need to say what we're doing every time we walk into a room at all times. I mean, the game has waypoints. There are waypoints that point to you where you should be going. It's not really necessary for the characters to tell you as many times as they do where you should be going next when there's like graphics in the game pointing where you need to go. I guess they just really, really, really did not want anyone to get stuck. Really did not want anyone to get stuck. It's not the only issue. There are other issues, like, say, the gameplay. I thought the gameplay was odd. Not that it was bad, but that I felt like it just didn't build up to anything. Like, say, in the first episode, you get the impression that the way this game is structured, the way it's formatted, is that you find a murder, you investigate the murder scene, you talk to suspects, you get clues, you fill up the percentage of how much of the case you've solved. It culminates in a trial, and that's how episode 1 went. In most games that are like this, you'll have multiple trials, and those trials will become more difficult as the game goes on. And it will culminate at the end with the biggest trial of all, where you have to use all of these skills and everything you've learned throughout the game to try to overcome the biggest trial at the end. Yeah, most of these things are like that. Like your Phoenix Wrights. Dyschronia doesn't do that. Dyschronia has 2 trials, and that's it. The third episode does not have a trial. The second trial is not any more difficult than the first one. It feels like they never build up on that element of the gameplay, like most games that would have a murder mystery would do. This doesn't do that. And I don't know, it just kind of feels like, why did we do those trials to begin with if that never really led anywhere? If, like, that didn't build up to a big ultra trial at the end. I was kind of thinking that probably the way the game was going to end is it's going to be a trial against the AI, Eustace itself, since Eustace controls the city and has all the advantages. And that, you were going to have like an impossible trial at the end where you have to somehow convict the AI. And they mentioned in the first trial that the trials are viewable by the public. And like maybe that would be your only advantage, that everyone can see what's happening. And Eustace can't actually do anything about that, even though he controls all other aspects of the city. Something like that. I don't know. I felt like the game was probably going to build up to some sort of big ultra trial at the end, like most of these games would do, and it never does that. I don't know. It just feels like they started this whole murder mystery investigation trial process, and then it doesn't really go anywhere. Especially since these cases you solve end up not happening, right? Because the end of the game is that you reset the timeline. You stop your mom from doing what she did in the clock tower years ago, and because of that, none of the events in the present day actually happen. So the professor never gets murdered, because you stop it from happening by changing the timeline. The second murder mystery was Ari dying, but I mean, even before the game ends, you change the timeline so that never happens. So, like, not only does the trial system not go anywhere, but those trials never actually happen because the murders never actually happen because you stop them from happening. So it seems like the actual focus of the story is time travel and manipulating timelines, but the game doesn't have a lot of that either. Like, if that's the direction they wanted to go, maybe they could have had more of an emphasis on using the pocket watch to go back in time and to change things around, and then that builds up to the ultimate timeline change at the end of the game. But they don't do that either. I don't know, it feels like this game does not have, like a lot of games, like ignoring like murder mystery and trial games, ignoring that, like most games that have gameplay in general will have a progression of easy gameplay, medium gameplay, leading up to hard gameplay at the end where you have to use everything you learned. And Dyschronia just doesn't do that in any of its elements. It's weird. It's kind of weird because, like, the final boss of the game is actually that one puzzle room with the lasers. Remember that? Right before I went up to the top of the clock tower? There's a puzzle room where there's lasers, and you have to use blocks to redirect the lasers to turn the generator on. That room is actually the last boss of the game. Once you get up to the clock tower and confront Elaine, there's not really gameplay there. It's just a cutscene, and then you have a choice to make as to which direction you're going to turn the clock. Like, the story comes to a conclusion, but, like, the gameplay you've been doing doesn't build up to any kind of satisfying conclusion. Again, it's weird. Like, they were trying to do multiple things, but then they didn't do enough of any of them. And I suppose that also fits into the story as well. I felt the story wasn't very satisfying. And I think a reason for that is because it feels like a story that was written for a bigger game. Like the scope of this game was not large enough for the story. And what I mean by that is a big element of the story is learning about the city itself, Astrum Close. The city is basically a character in the game. You learn about the city, you explore the city, you discover its past, you discover what its purpose is. And yet there's barely any city. There are so few locations in this game. It doesn't feel like a city because of how small it is. Like, how many locations do you have? You have the plaza that connects, like, a few buildings. You have the bureau. You have your home. You have the hotel where Keith is. You have the tram that leads to the professor's home. And that's kind of it. There's also the clock tower in episode 3. And there's also the trial room. That's kind of it, isn't it? That's kind of the extent of how much you can explore the city. And when I say explore, it's in quotes, air quotes, because you don't really explore much. Like, there's not much to find, you know? Most of the areas are barren and empty. I mean, part of that is part of the story, because all of the residents are trapped in VR, because they're quarantined there because of the murder. You know, that's a clever story reason for why you don't have, like, real people standing around. It's because they're quarantined to VR. And you can go into the VR to see them. Most of them take the form of fish, but some of them are, like, humanoid, and you can talk to them. They frequently don't have anything interesting to say. And on occasionally you'll find someone who is stressed out, and you can play the Simon minigame to counsel them. And you do that to unlock archive items, to learn more flavor information. That's okay. That's okay. But still, I understand that they were trying to get across the idea that Astrum Close is this big city that's populated by tons of people, by having, like, thousands of fish fly in the air. I feel like overall I just never got past the sense that this was a barren, small place. And that's a problem because in a game where a big part of the story is the setting itself, an important part is being able to explore that setting. You know, let's bring up one of my favorite small-budget games, Deadly Premonition. Deadly Premonition takes place in a town, Greenvale. A big part of the story is exploring the town. And you can just explore part of it as part of the critical path, but the game encourages you to go off-road, off the path, and then just, like, drive around and see what you find, and find people to talk to and side quests to do. And Greenvale, you know, overall is mostly empty. It's very barren itself, but they somehow get across the illusion of this being a full-size town that's populated with people, even though it's not a lot of people. It has a population of people living their lives and locations you can go to, even though plenty of the buildings you can't go in. I think they succeeded at creating an illusion of a town. And exploring the town and learning about it is a big part of what makes that game as good as it is. I mean, that a lot of people, when they play that game, want to get the fast travel walkie-talkie as fast as possible. But I always think that you're missing out if you only want to use fast travel, because a big part of the game is just exploring the town and seeing what you find. Like driving off of a road onto a dirt path and finding a human sternum. And York saying, a human bone? It's not part of the case, but we should tell someone, right? And then eventually finding out what it is you use those bones for. Yeah, something like that. In Dyschronia, that never happens. In Dyschronia, it never feels like you're exploring a big city. It feels like the area is very small, despite the game telling you otherwise. And it doesn't feel like it has a population. Most of the NPCs in VR are very faint, and they don't have names. We don't know anything about them. There's, like, a couple of characters in VR who actually have names and have a backstory, but there's not many. It's not many. And there's no real reason to actually talk to most of them, unless there's some parts where the game suggests you should, but frequently there's not a reason to do that. It feels like this was a story that was made for a much bigger game, a game that would feature a much bigger city, that would feature many more areas and many more places to explore. Remember how in the professor's home there's like a scale model of the city, so you can see what the city is supposed to look like? And it's like you only go to a couple places in it. Like most of that city is not something you go to, despite seeing the map of it. Or when you use the tram to go to the professor's house, it says you're going to the residential district. But there is no residential district. It's just the professor's house. Did they intend for there to be a residential district? Did they just not have the time or budget to actually make one? I feel like that's what it feels like to me. Like you were intended to explore the different districts of the city and see what you find. And the game is just not that big. It's just much too small. I feel like considering how many areas there are, which are not many, and how many characters there are, which are not many, the scale of the game feels like it should take place inside of like a house, like a mansion, instead of a city. Just like much smaller. Because it's not big enough for the city. Like you got to shrink that down to like a house. Like if this was one house, then sure, you'd have enough rooms and you'd have enough characters. It's a murder mystery taking place in a house, like Clue. But it's not big enough for a full city, despite that being what the game is about. And again, maybe that's just a time and budget problem. And I feel like the story itself has issues. I understand what they were going for. They're going for the premise of this is a location that you don't know anything about. Your character doesn't know anything either because of all the amnesia. And you're meeting mysterious people who know the answers to various questions that you don't know. And it's a confusing plot because you don't even know what the questions are you're trying to answer. But I don't know. I never felt like this came to a satisfying conclusion. I don't know. Maybe part of that has to do with how few characters there are. Like when you're talking about who are the suspects here, well, there's like 3 at any one time. How many people can you actually suspect of being the culprit? Yeah, there's barely any. There's barely any people here. Maybe that's one reason why kind of fell flat to me. I don't know. Maybe there would have been some important information in the files if I had unlocked all the files. But I felt like the story was getting sci-fi-ish enough that it needed a bit more explanation, maybe. Like the premise is the apocalypse happened, the world is inhospitable, but there are some cities, some bastions of civilization that have been set up. And one of them, Astrum Close, is this super sci-fi city made by a super genius, the professor, who is harnessing these strange Aeon particles for the purpose of somehow merging VR and reality to make, I don't know, the world a paradise, like whatever your dream is in the VR. If you can get everyone happy in the VR and get their dream to be a thing there, their ideal version of the world, and then you overwrite reality with that ideal version and you turn the world into paradise, that's, I guess, was the idea? Was that what was going on? That's what the big experiment was, right? And then you have the variants, who are people who are able to manipulate the time and manipulate the Aeon particles. And they're vital to the experiments. But people in general don't trust them because of their powers. And then I guess the professor decides at some point he's not going to do that. Or at least Elaine says that. Did we ever find out why he didn't want to do that? I'm trying to think about... Did they ever say why the professor decided that he didn't want to continue this experiment anymore? And I don't know. I mean, I guess I guess it does explain why Eustace is so concerned about the stress level of the people in the town of the city, because the goal is that everyone has to be happy to create the perfect world to overwrite reality. And if everyone is stressed and the VR world becomes a nightmare and that overwrites reality, that's catastrophic. So the AI is very concerned about how happy and sad people are. And that's why Eustace, he tells you in episode 1 that your job is not justice. Your job is not to find the truth. Your job is to make the people comfortable. And that includes convicting innocent people if necessary, which is why he wants to convict Keith, because convicting him as the murderer would make the people happy that the murderer has been caught. And that makes some sense as to Eustace's motivation, why he's programmed for that to be his main concern. He doesn't care who the actual murderers are. He just cares about how happy the people are. I feel like that is a part of the game that could have been explored more. I think it could be interesting to have the main premise of the game, instead of like the time travel stuff, having the main premise of the game being living in this city that is overseen by the AI, whose one and only concern is that the people are happy, and that is the case, even if that means putting innocent people to death, and you as the cop has to try to figure out how to thread the needle between making the AI happy, but also finding and convicting the actual murderers. That sounds. I think that sounds like it could be a more interesting premise than the time travel stuff. I don't know. I feel like they never really explored enough of that element of what happens if you make the AI upset. What happens if your quest for truth and justice, what if that makes the AI mad? Like, really, the most that ever comes to a head is the end of episode 2, where the whale, the worry whale, is very stressed, and Eustace says, "Man, forget all this. I'm rebooting the whole system." And you say, "No, but Maya is in the system. She's going to be deleted if that happens. So then we have to calm everyone down." That's kind of the climax of that element of, if everyone gets too stressed, then the AI is going to do something drastic. And it I don't know, it doesn't really come up again that much. I feel like that could be a more interesting direction for the story to have taken. Yeah, I think it just feels like, considering the scope, the small scale of the game, the story probably also needed to be a smaller scale. It feels too big, like it's trying to go in too many directions, despite having so few characters. It's weird. It's weird how it can feel both too big and too small at the same time. But yeah, maybe the story just needed to focus more on something. Maybe that has to do with solving murders and doing the trials. Or maybe the thing it focuses on is more about the ethical concerns about being ruled by an AI. Or maybe the thing it focuses on is just zeroing in entirely on time travel, doing multiple timelines, and the problems that emerge from doing that. But I feel like the game tries to do a lot of these things and doesn't do them enough or well enough. And it just kind of feels like it, I don't know. Like maybe things just needed to be tightened up a bit. There were a lot of ideas thrown around in Dyschronia, maybe too many. Maybe there should have been a few less ideas. Considering the size of the game. That's not to say that I don't like the game. I mean, I did play through the entire game. I wanted to like it. I wanted for something to be there. I enjoyed the look of the game, the aesthetic. I enjoyed the sound. Though in the videos, it's hard to hear a lot of the music. I think I might have mentioned it, that I had to turn down the volume for these videos because the voices are just so loud. And there's no option in the game to turn down the voices. So I just had to turn the volume down in general to make the voices more tolerable. And because of that, you don't hear much music. It's hard to hear it. But what music there is pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought that some of the elements of the trial system were pretty good, like the idea of finding the items that represented evidence in the trial, the way the mystery, the current case was presented to you in the screen you could bring up, where it showed all the connections between the people and the places and the items. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that, I thought that there was a pretty cool VR implementation during the trial when you go into the simulation where you have to rebuild the murder scene and what actually happened. Like, there's this bit where you have an orb in front of you with handles on it, and then you grab the sides of the orb and then like pull your arms out to the sides, and then the orb gets big, and then you're in the orb. Like, when you're playing it in VR, that is a pretty cool effect, and I feel like the game did not have much of that. And I guess actually that brings me to another point. The VR implementation felt like not really existent. Like, a big part of what I'm looking for in a VR game are cool uses of the VR. And those might not be big uses. They might be very small, seemingly small uses. Like, for example, back when I played Lies Beneath, something I bring up in that game that maybe doesn't seem impressive, but was very impressive to me when I was playing it, was the ability to pick up your gun and then just pass your gun to your other hand, and move your gun between your hands. Which hand do you want to hold your gun in? Just put it in your other hand. That may not sound like a big deal, but like, that was the first VR game I had ever seen that lets you do that. Not even Half-Life Alyx lets you do that. In Half-Life Alyx, you choose from the menu which hand holds your gun. So the idea of you can just like pass the gun between your hands in gameplay was a very cool thing. That's like an example I'm bringing up of a cool VR implementation. Dyschronia never really does anything like that. It doesn't feel like it needs to be a VR game. I mean, I think that's definite because there is a version of this game coming out for the Switch. So they clearly made the game with the intention that this could be playable in non-VR. But when playing it in VR, it never really feels like it's taking advantage of anything. Like, I mean, what do you really do to interact with the game? You pick up items with your right hand to get information about what the item is, and then pick up the item with your left hand in order to time travel. That's not really a big thing. There's like barely any shooting. Like, there's maybe one time where you do a flashback where you shoot a gun, but like, there's not really any of that. Even though Hal does supposedly have a gun on his bracelet, he never uses it. Really, the only kind of VR implementation I can think of is when you can give Lily head rubs. Like, that's the big thing, isn't it? Lily asks you for a head rub, you reach out and rub her head, and like, that's kind of the only thing. That's kind of the only like real VR implementation they have in this game. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't feel like I'm getting anything out of it by playing it in VR. And again, maybe that's just because they intended to make this playable in non-VR from the beginning. I didn't feel like it was a satisfying VR experience. And, I mean, as far as that goes, there are parts in the game where I do mention that it doesn't feel like the game is built for VR, because the way I'm playing this game is how I play any VR game, is I'm standing, and I'm using my body to turn around, right? Most games I'm playing it like that. Or if the VR game has you controlling a vehicle, I'd be sitting down. Either way, I'm turning around in real life to turn in the game. And I'm moving from side to side a little bit. just about every VR game is programmed to handle that. That's a common way of playing the games. Dyschronia really isn't. Because Dyschronia absolutely intends for you to be like in one place, looking in one direction the whole time. And you can see this because sometimes I walk off center and like the subtitles aren't showing up correctly. The subtitles are like too far away from me because it's aimed at where it thinks I should be standing instead of where I actually am. Or like characters might be talking, they're like facing a few feet to my right because that's where I'm supposed to be standing. I'm standing in the wrong place. Or like there's that one part near the end of the game that I mentioned where Noel turns towards you and points up in the air and says, "Hal, look." And my reaction was to turn around and look at where he was pointing, but then the game fades to black. And then when it fades back in, I'm now faced back the other way because the game did not intend for me to actually turn around. The intention was I was supposed to remain still, facing forward, and the game would turn the viewpoint around for me. And, like, just about no VR games are made like that. Like, maybe some at the beginning of VR, but, like, modern VR games, no, they're not. Like, the intention is you're moving around and you're turning and such. And this game clearly is not made with that in mind. Like, I think that they just intend for you to be sitting in a chair, facing one direction, and, like, never moving from that. But, like, people don't really play VR games like that in general. You're going to be, like, even if you're sitting down, you're going to be turning a little bit. Like, you're not going to be remaining completely still. But that's clear. That seems like what this game thinks you're doing. I don't know. I don't understand that. Well, I know I'm complaining a lot about it, but overall I enjoyed what I was doing in Dyschronia. I just never felt like... I felt like it was getting in its own way of living up to its own potential. Like, if they had scenes in the game that were edited like the opening intro, that would have been pretty cool. If any of the gameplay elements had actually led up to some sort of climax, that would have been very cool. They just didn't. If maybe they had told the voice actress for Lily to maybe, you know, she doesn't have to go real high, doesn't have to do that. Maybe, you know, just talking to maybe a more normal voice. I mean, if I had my way, Lily would probably talk something like this, like a little goblin. "Oh no, Hal. We gotta get to the bureau." Little goblin, chain-smoking 3 packs a day is probably how I would choose for Lily to sound. "How about a head rub, mister?" I would have given her so many head rubs if she sounded like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the voice actress, I'm sure that she was directed to do the voice like that. But, you know, it never... I mean, I know it's because probably the Japanese VA does the high-pitched voice, but, I mean, in anime dubs, it never sounds good when the English VA does it, does it? Just, you know, talking a more natural voice is probably the better way of doing it. Or talk like this. Which is what I would want. I guess, you know, just started saying words about Dyschronia, and that's probably enough words. I know most of these words were negative, and it makes it sound like I don't like the game. But I did enjoy the game, though I found the game frustrating in terms of just not living up to what potential it might have had. And maybe that has to do with time and budget. But overall, I felt like this was a story written for a much bigger game than it turned out to be, and a game that was made for a non-VR system and just did not take advantage of VR. And also a game that was way too slow. Like, those are the 3 main things I'm thinking of. The slowness, the VR implementation, and it just not like a story feeling like it was meant for a bigger game than it actually was. And as such, none of the elements of the game building up to something satisfying. I guess those are my thoughts about Dyschronia, this VR anime murder mystery I've been playing since January. There was a break in the middle where I wasn't playing it for a while. I don't think I mentioned it on the video, but the reason for that was because there was a firmware update for the Oculus Quest that broke the game, and I had to restart the game once it got working again. So that's why there was like a break there during episode 2 where I wasn't uploading anything for it. I wanted to, just the game wasn't running because of bad firmware. But that problem was solved, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Well, I'm, as far as the developer goes, I'd be interested in seeing what they do next, and I just kind of hope, I would kind of hope that they're able to produce something that ends up being a bit more, more satisfying than this turned out. Just, I don't regret playing it. I enjoy playing it for the most part, but there's elements of it where it just got in its own way and wasn't as good as it could have been. Well, I guess that's how I feel about Dyschronia, the 3-episode anime murder mystery. As I said, this is coming out on the Nintendo Switch, and apparently, according to the developer, the Switch is going to have an exclusive episode. Does that mean a full-size episode? Is there an episode 4? Will there be more to the story on the Switch? I don't know. They haven't said anything about it. But that's it for Dyschronia, our VR adventure in anime.